sustainable architecture is expensive, she might charge a bomb if you go there. The mother of all strategies, but how many people are intending on doing it? There's a lot of thought process has gone behind that. Even 120 liters of one bucket of water is precious.
Welcome back to another episode of Architecture Playbook podcast series Intent to Impact, where we discuss whatever we are designing as architects and how it's getting implemented on site during execution and what happens in between. Today, we have a very special guest with us, architect Bhagwati Kishore. With over 20 years of experience in architecture, interior, green education, sustainability, and consultancy. She has been the forefront of promoting environmentally responsive design, a LEED accredited professional certified by US Green Building Council and IGBC accredited professional. Architect Bhagwati specializes in creating climate responsive buildings that are sustainable and low in carbon footprint. Her dedication in green education earned her recognition from the Real Women Global Community under the Green Education category. Beyond her professional practice, she actively campaigns women's empowerment as a regional ambassador for the Bangalore chapter for the Real Women Global Community and has been panelist at MEP Conclave Bangalore 2024. Welcome to our podcast, ma'am.
Thank you, Aditya. I'm also really excited to be on this podcast, and it's an opportunity for me to connect to the world. Thank you for this.
How did your journey started and where the Studio Green Adobe initiated and where your regular practice actually turned into sustainable architecture in specific?
I want to wish everyone a happy World Environment Day today, and I'm really honored to be here today doing this podcast. So basically, I started as an architect and had my own company. So in between, on a personal issue, we had to go to US, and we stayed there for like 5 to 6 years in some activities there, and then later we decided that we are going to come back here. So if an architect with a 5 years gap is coming back to India, so is anybody going to talk to me once I go back with because I lack the experience or I lack the bridge of what's happening in the industry. So I thought, okay, let me dig into something, and I found the USGBC, that's the US Green Building Council, is doing incredible job creating sustainable buildings. So I thought I should become an accredited professional of that. So after 15 years, I picked up the books and I studied. It has very deeper concepts. So I kind of finished the LEED Green Associate. That's the basic exam, which is going to give you an insight into green building principles and strategies. Then I went ahead and specialized in building design and construction. So that is the accreditation that a USGPC is going to give you. That is LEED AP, specialized in building design and construction. So it just means that you are having a certification or the knowledge to get the building certain points and help them to navigate their certification, because that's the knowledge we possess. So that's when I started this. I totally fell in love with this, and by God's grace I got some opportunities where during COVID I started teaching. I started taking a lot of webinars. People loved it, so they asked me whether can you take classes, because we are really interested in this. Then we started Studio Green Adobe, started classes as well. So we now educate people across the world on green building design strategies, and many of our students have taken the exam also. They are also become green building consultants. So this is one of the ways for me to tackle the climate change problem and contribute to the Mother Earth as a professional.
So it started 20 years back, as in when you just graduated.
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
started my journey,
Yes, yes.
but in between all of this happened, and
But still, you continued to
yeah,
practice.
practice.
Okay.
So once I came back to India, so I thought I should also do IGBC AP, that is the Indian Green Building Council, which is more relevant to the Indian climate or Indian context. So I'm also an IGBC AP. We do lead consultancy and IGBC consultancy and work with certain architects for getting the certification as well.
Train them to
Yeah, I have a
complete
six.
the exam.
Yeah, I have a 6-week training program
Okay.
and give complete all the materials.
Okay.
So it'll have 12 sessions. And I personally one-to-one train, coach them once you finish the session also.
Ma'am, we want to understand this word sustainability because nowadays it has become a buzzword that yes, it is sustainable. But what actually truly means sustainable to you? Is it just about adding plants and solar panel? Is it sustainability or is it beyond to that?
Okay, that's a very important question because when I go out and meet people, young architects and many people, so they have really misunderstood the real meaning of sustainability. So just imagine like putting plants and solar panels was your question.
Yes.
So you are nicely dressed up on a hot day, on a hot summer day, and you have a sustainable bag in your hand, like done with recycled plastic or recycled resin. So you are sustainable on your fashion and you're wearing a sustainable jewelry, but you're wearing a polyester fabric. So you are literally choking inside with the heat, but you are sustainable with the bag and the jewelry. So that does mean that you're doing a right thing? No. So what we are doing these days is just by putting mud blocks or rammed earth or putting plants and solar panels, we don't become sustainable. We are choking the building and the people inside if you're not taking care of the building envelope, where the thermal insulation is extremely important. So, sustainability goes beyond that. So, for that, I'll just tell you a small story.
Okay.
So, when you just imagine during Adam and Eve in the world, so they were just happily living, they were eating fruits, and there was no waste generated. There was a complete life cycle loop which was designed by nature, and everything was, the tiger was eating what the prey, and whoever eats whatever, there is a perfect loop or the ecological balance which was there, and there was absolutely no waste which was produced. Everything was perfect in harmony. Then what happened? One day the man came and there's like, oh, I want luxury, I want to build houses, bridges, dams, roads, and he started. That's not wrong, but when he started doing it, he did it in a very irresponsible manner. He did not think that he's depleting the earth's resources, nor did he think of how the waste materials which were produced, whether it's going back to nature or it's going to stay there. I mean, there was no thought process for that at all. So, over decades and centuries, we've been doing it. And now we are at the brink of disaster where nature is, planet Earth is not able to take it. So, it's giving back to us through natural calamities, the global warming, floods, and whatnot. And we have to bear through because we've been doing it or we have conditioned to being doing it. So, if we want to change this, we need to reverse our process. So, we need to reverse our thinking. So, how a building has to be designed, how, because why building is important, because our construction industry contributes to a very significant amount of carbon emissions or greenhouse gases. So it is very important as professionals we upscale the our design thinking and create sustainability as a feature. And sustainability goes beyond all of this. What actually sustainability is, you create buildings or structures which reduce the impact on the environment.
Right.
So you compare to a conventional building. So it starts very early on from your design thinking, from your orientation, materials, passive design strategies, uh, energy savings. You want to have a net zero energy buildings, reduce the energy load. So there are so many aspects or green building strategies which we can follow and make the building less impactful on the environment.
Yes.
And also sustainability basis on the occupant well-being. It is not about just the building, it is about the well-being of the person living in that. So where he's connected to nature, how natural light helps us to, on the well-being front. So all of that also is included into sustainability. That is true sustainability, not just adding solar panels and plants.
The consequence of whatever has been constructed is so slow that the person might not know the actual after effects of it, of using certain material. So is there any method to
Exactly,
know
yeah,
what
there are.
is what?
So we have something called life cycle analysis of any material.
Okay.
So how we analyze each and every material which is put in the building, from its manufacturing, from extraction of raw materials to manufacturing, to how it is transported to the site, how is the operational uh, performance of that, and what happens after deconstruction. So there is a complete LCA, that is called the life cycle analysis,
Okay.
which there are experts who do that. So we kind of understand how the material is used.
What is the biggest myth which clients or even the architects have in when it comes to sustainability? What are the myths people usually carry when it comes to sustainable construction?
So sustainable construction, people think that it is very expensive and it is very complicated, or they think that it is putting plants and solar panels. So that's the biggest myth. I have the answer with question you asked. So the actual thing is, the sustainable buildings are more cheaper than your conventional buildings. So I'll just tell you what happened is, when I came in, I from back to US, and I was in the Indian market. I was really amazed that I'm into green architecture and all of that. I went on telling people that I'm doing this and everything. They were like, wow, very nice. And people were a little hesitant. They were thinking, oh, sustainable architecture is expensive, she might charge a bomb if we go there. So it was not the case.
Yes.
So how I studied the market, how it is. So what we did was, we started telling that you come to us, we would do all the designs and everything. The green feature what we are going to give you, or your building which is going to be green but it's not certified, but it has a less operational energy and all of that, that will be free. Because that becomes the design. Because now I can't design any building without thinking about the sun path diagram or the climate of that place, because I'm conditioned to design that way because I have the knowledge. So once you get that knowledge, you are, the way you think about the whole architecture is completely different. So that is one thing. And the second thing is, they think it's complicated. It is not. Mostly our sustainable buildings were built way before, in the ancient times. Only, vernacular architecture, the totti mane, all of that is sustainable, and they have used sustainable features and rooted in sustainability. But somewhere along the way we lost it, and we thought the glazed buildings are aesthetic and imported materials are aesthetic, and then we lost it.
Actually, what I understand, you gave a very good point. Whatever is the local climate, onto that basis itself, vernacular architecture was, or any other
Yeah,
type of
exactly. It's climate
was
responsive.
responding to that. So I live in Rajasthan. We constructed the 9 inch as a 1.5 feet
Thick wall.
thick wall. And the moment wall thickness was more, and the height of the ceiling was not just 10 to 11 feet, it was 15.5 feet, which allowed the
Hot
to
air to
go.
escape on top.
And that naturally made the entire house cool. We never
Exactly.
had ACs or
Exactly, in Rajasthan.
Yes.
So why are we not doing anything right now?
So it is like more about that local climate allows
Exactly.
to-
So you need to design your building, basically has to be climate responsive.
Yes.
So the same design cannot be put in Punjab or Gujarat if you're designing it in Bangalore. It has to be responsible to climate. It has to be the natural materials or the local materials which are available.
We already have the building bylaws or codes which are defined for sustainable construction, but for locally available or locally designs, how are we going to cater to each one of them? So how it works?
So basically, your question is, when somebody is constructing a building, pan India, we cannot have the same codes
Bylaws.
and rules.
Yeah.
But the codes and rules which were given by the government was not for sustainability. It was for the general usage, about how much of setbacks you need to leave and how much. So if it's a larger building, they would want the setback for a fire truck to pass all around. So those are the basic, fundamental bylaws which are running in pan India. But when you are looking at an individual regional aspect, so well, like we said, sustainable buildings are also climate responsive. So the only way we can do it, when the government comes up with something on a sustainable rules, which is kind of mandatory, which is easily doable by all architects, where it has to be regionally specific. So responding to Bangalore climate. So like I said, if you are putting designed a building in Bangalore, the same building cannot be put in Punjab. So we are in Karnataka, our projects we do, But recently we did a project in Punjab. So Punjab has a very, very extreme climates. It is extremely hot and humid, and it is extremely cold and dry. So how do you design for this? So we had a brainstorming session on the design aspect, and the clients are not willing to spend a lot. So you need to be very careful about your design. So our main basis was the passive design strategies, how well we can adapt so that we are not increasing the cost of the building. And we came up with the solutions where we have certain summer balconies and winter balconies, because you can't design something one balcony for everything. So we had the space and the opportunity to do that. So the morning sun which comes in, so we had the huge windows and nice balconies there, so which could take the morning heat. That could be the winter balconies. The summer balconies were also different. So we kind of designed it in a way where it caters to both the climates.
So
Uh,
I guess for India in specific, north light as well as the east light is always good.
yeah. So in India, the south and west is something which we really have to
Work on.
work on,
Hmm.
because when we are talking about west is a killer. So how when designing we try to put toilets or staircases. So the most of the building heat which is taken by the west is through this, and you're not really getting it into the building. You can't put a living room or some bedroom there which takes a complete heat. That is the first thing while designing. When you come to the materials, you are building with whatever bricks or porothermo blocks or something which is has a thermal insulation. We also line plaster those two walls, the south and the west, where it does not take the heat. And also over that we do the cool paint.
Hmm.
What does cool paint does? It reflects the heat back. The building itself is not getting heated up. So that is not going to release any heat into the building.
Okay.
So
So do you think so that Vastu is a sustainable practice which was practiced earlier? Okay.
the Vastu which was put earlier was
Yeah.
definitely sustainable.
Yes. Because even the direction of where we are cooking or direction where we are supposed to be, the living areas
Yeah,
are
exactly.
all
Because
climate responsive
yes,
in
they
that
are
way.
climate responsive, and it is about how the energies flow in your house. Because most of our temples, our ancestors has designed, is they try to tap the cosmic energy and the natural energy. So if you take even our festivals or everything is so celestial based, it's about the moon and the sun,
Yes.
right? So where like we are also having this Adhik Mas right now, so that is also to reset our calendar. So most of our ancestors worked on the celestial patterns. So even so they encashed the cosmic energy and the natural energy which was available.
So that way, I guess it's a very you're responding to the sun, you're responding to
Exactly, it
the
is respond.
environment.
That is again
Now
your
it's like you are giving a hit back to the nature.
we can't ignore our ancient wisdom,
Hmm.
but we should be so intelligent enough to take our ancient wisdom and the new technologies which are available and have a good culmination of both, and come up with some strategies where your building is responding to the climate, but still you're in par with the technology, and uh, you're not on the back of the thing. And I also strongly believe any building which is constructed, it has to reflect the time which was built in, the Kal aspect.
Yes.
So if you think the Brihadeshwara temple which was designed, when you go there, it reflects the time which was built in. So now we are designing something in 2026. After 2050, it's going to be people should know that we have built it at that age. So it has to reflect the time. So you can't just say I'm Vastu, sustainability and ancient wisdom, and you can't build something which was built that time. You need to adapt what is there right now and what is the best thing you can give out.
So, ma'am, if the concept or the entire idea of sustainability is so good for the environment, also, then why people are so reluctant or not taking a step forward to adapt it in the first place?
Okay, that's a very important question. I would just ask you one question back
Okay.
before that. So, do you like gulab jamun?
Yes, I do.
Is it good for your health?
Um, no.
Do you still eat it?
Yes, I do.
So, you got your answer. Sustainability is good, but people think it's very difficult, or they lack awareness or knowledge how to do it, and they think I'm good enough now. What I'm doing is good enough. I'm getting projects, or if an architect is thinking I'm getting projects, I'm executing it, and the client is happy. What more do I need? So only when somebody thinks back, saying that as a professional, how I can give back to this planet. So you are blessed to be in the construction industry where you can really give back to nature only when you have the knowledge or education and understand the importance of it. So most of our construction industry is now driven with the real estate, or the number of square feet, or how much does it cost. Cost plays a very important role on everything. So nobody cares if it's sustainable or not. Only people who really truly understand that fact only pitch in for it. So the complete mindset has to shift. So that's a very, very difficult task which we are looking at, because people are so driven with finances, they don't care about all of this. So the other way to bring about this, I also keep thinking about all this. So the other way to bring about a change is when the government is stringent. We are so conditioned to do something only when it is at the brink of disaster or something is going to collapse. Only then we will act. So when the government makes some stringent policies, uh, and gets it to, in practice, now you don't have a go, you have to do it. So people will do it, and then once you start doing it, then you'll realize the importance of doing it, and it will become a trend. Sustainability has to become a trend. People love trends. So let's make sustainability trendy, and then people will follow, but the actual sustainability, not putting plants and solar panels. So so the government has to really put in something and make some stringent rules which can be easily followed by people, so then we can make a shift or paradigm shift in the way we think, design, and execute.
Okay, okay, that is interesting because until unless there is a consequence, people don't act on it. So
Exactly.
once why to wait for the consequence to come? We should start bringing up those
Yeah,
changes
so
now.
talking about is our ancient wisdom was prevention is better than cure.
Hmm.
But we forgot that we want to do only when something happens, is when we try to act on it.
So my doctor tells it very right that prevention is the cure.
Yeah, that's the see, Ayurveda also tells the same thing.
Yes,
Change your lifestyle habits. So
yes.
most of the problems of mental health or other diseases which are there is our lifestyle problem. It's not something just overnight it came. So people don't sleep. So there are so many things. So regarding sleep also, we had a lot of discussion. One of the Stanley development of business development officer had come, and then we started, and sleep was something very important.
Yes.
So sustainability, like also we discussed, is not about just reducing the carbon footprint or uh, connecting to nature. It is also about taking the well-being of the occupant. So how can you do that? One is you connect the person to nature. A person or a human being is at bliss when he is connected to nature. For example, whenever you go for trips or hills or beaches or mountains, you want a room which you are facing the beach, or want a beautiful view of the mountain. Why? Because we are designed that way. I mean, designed is a different word, but we are conditioned that way, that we are at bliss only when we are with nature. We don't realize that. So we have to design houses where we connect people to nature, like your biophilic design, or giving huge courtyards, but being still careful about the functionality and the sun angles and the glare, but where you connect to people. So as a human body, we have something called the circadian rhythm. That is a biological clock in our body, where our body is designed: when the sun rises, you rise, and when you sleep, your melatonin, all of that is. So there is a cycle which is there. So encash that cycle, understand how it works, and give it, so the person who's living in that house or working in that building is very happy. So it is also said that the person who's working in a sustainable building is more productive because everything is taken care of. If you are living in a sustainable building or practicing sustainability, there are three things which you are going to achieve, that is health, wealth, and soul. One is the health, because we are using the materials which are less on chemicals. I mean, so the certified materials, if you're using, they are less on chemicals. So again, you're looking at the health and the circadian rhythm, the quality views which you're providing. All of that is for the well-being. That's the health. The wealth, that you're reducing the operational cost of your building by, having the proper passive design strategies where you reduce the electrical load by itself. So the little bit which is left, you can tackle it with renewable sources, and the building becomes self-sustainable. You don't have to depend on the grid for your electricity. So again, wealth, you're saving money there. Then the soul, after doing all of this, we're talking so much, you feel good that you gave back something to this world, because we are taking so much from the time we are born. So that's the soul. So it's a win-win.
So, ma'am, can you tell us about some of the green materials which are available right now in the market and people can start adapting to it and using it during the construction and understand about those?
So there are so many green materials available in the market. So have you heard of Green Pro certified materials?
No.
Okay. So IGBC, that is our Indian Green Building Council, has come up with the Green Pro certified materials, where all the materials which are listed there have gone through the screening process and they are certified green materials. Certified. Okay. So how does a product become a green product is when you test for so many things. That is, first is your chemicals, because we are looking at health. So do you imagine the building which is constructed some 10 years back or 20 years back, how the paint used to smell?
Yes.
It used to smell a lot, so there's a lot of ammonia in that. So over a period of time, people have realized that these chemicals are harming people, and to be on the global scale or the global market, the products which the building materials have to be certified. So Asian Paints is Green Seal certified. That is an international certification. So if you are looking at paints on a Indian context, we have Berger and Nippon. They are, Indian certified green products. So you have JSW. If you're looking at steel, then Meenakshi. All of this is Green Pro certified materials.
Okay.
So you can, I can share the link with you. So you can go to these Green Pro certified materials and look. There are so many materials which you're already using, but you're not aware that it is. As an architect, you should be aware, right?
Yes.
Only
Yes.
then you will be able to tell the client that we are using such materials. You are already using it, but you don't know. So that is one thing. One is the chemicals. The second screening process is the embodied energy of a material. uh, what is embodied energy is the energy which is consumed by the material from the time which is extracted, the raw materials, the manufacturing processes, then how it is transported and how it is delivered to the site, how it is installed, the operational phase, and the deconstruction.
Okay.
So there is a complete cycle analysis done for the certain material, and once when we feel that there is a certain processes which they certify, and they say, okay, this is green material. For example, if you are using some raw materials for your product which is going to be extinct, then it's a big no.
Mm.
So you can also use certain materials which are rapidly renewable materials, that is, they replenish back to nature within 10 years. That is your bamboo, cork, hemp. All of this are very good because you're not depleting it. At 10 years it will come back. So our T2 terminal, Bangalore T2 terminal is full of bamboo.
Yes.
So you use bamboo, you can, plant more bamboos and you're through. You're not really, caused any harm to the environment. So please go to these websites and understand what are green materials. So get educated so you can use it. And using locally available material is very important. Like how we spoke about embodied energy. If you are importing a marble from Italy, the embodied energy is more because how much fuel you're spending to transport it from there. So that's not sustainable.
Yes.
It is about understanding and how well you can plan your building with functionality and aesthetics and sustainability.
Ma'am, do you think so? India is already having enough sustainable materials in the market, and we are actually using imported materials as compared to what is locally available in India.
Yeah, we are. So there are a lot of materials which are available in India on the local front. So as we already mentioned that using local materials is very important for your carbon footprint of the building,
Mm.
and also those materials respond very beautifully to the climate because it is from there.
Hmm.
So why shouldn't we use it? Because it costs less and it is easy on transportation and abundantly available, and you can use it. But somewhere along the way we thought that using uh, the materials which are out of the country is something luxurious. So I had a client, she's like, nange India ಯಾವುದು ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಡಿ, don't show me anything from India, the materials. So I had to sit and educate her, it is not like that. So you have good materials even in India. It's just that we need to search and we need to put. So if you want to use marble,
Hmm.
okay, you're very intended on using marble, we can use Makrana marble. Why not? That's also very beautiful. But we always feel the other side is beautiful. I mean, it's a human tendency, but at what cost is the big question. But see, all these things is not visible, the impact is not uh, immediate. So you're not realizing the immediate impact. So the immediate impact, what a client will feel if you put Italian marble, people come say, wow, and it looks beautiful. That is the immediate impact. So we want instant gratification from everywhere. So we are not thinking whether this is right for us.
Ma'am, I had a word with architect Neelam Manjunath. So she told a very interesting point that if the architecture or the interiors of which we are doing, if it is not Instagrammable, people would not want to have it. So it is a very big question for sustainability also, because sometimes when we use only bamboo or certain things or clay brick, it is not as aesthetically pleasing as much as we are taking a imported material. So what is your take on it?
We need to go to the core bottom. Why are you building this house? Are you building this house to show people what you are? Then definitely go for the Instagrammable pages and the design. But are you building this house for yourself and for you to be grounded, for you to have a good life? Then the pitch is different. But you can also culminate both of them. You can make a sustainable building also Instagrammable, also aesthetic, and also beautiful, but minus the other expensive or materials which are available outside the country or something. We can make it if you have the skill to convince people. Then yeah, if one, two, three, or five people do it, when they say wow, it becomes a trend.
Nowadays it is happening very commonly where a lot of projects mark for a branding purpose mark themselves as green or eco-friendly or sustainable. How much is it actually true? Where is there any thin line which draws it to be sustainable or not?
So as we already discussed about materials and products, so once the material has a certification, it means that it is screened and processed, and definitely it is. But for the sales purpose, many of the manufacturing units, they call themselves sustainable. So we are sustainable. So recently when I went to some exhibitions where the materials are displayed, I went and asked him what material is this or whatever. He's like, it's sustainable, it's sustainable. I said, how? Tell me. He didn't know the answer. The Whoever is proprietor has told him that whoever comes, you tell this is sustainable. Now if somebody is telling you something, do you have the knowledge to ask them back a question and ask them to know whether it is sustainable or not? So most of the young architects are not aware of it. So I really tell everybody, please go educate yourself or understand what green products are and how the material is. So I asked him, and definitely that product was not sustainable. So he didn't have an answer.
So awareness is the key for it to
Exactly,
understand.
awareness is the key, and education or the skill is most important.
So if this product is sustainable, it will automatically, market itself.
So they just want to use the buzzword and they can sell it to people who are unaware.
Yes. What are the 5 checkpoints which we architects need to know when it comes to if the material is sustainable or not? What are the parameters we need to consider?
The first point is whether these products have some certification. But so there are so many green products which are available in the market, they are not certified. So I'll just give you some checkpoints how to do it. First, if any material comes to you, please check back whether it is certified. Okay, it's not certified. That's okay. That's not a problem. So whether it is locally available, whether it is in the reach of like 100 miles around you, that is first. And is the material, the raw materials which are used for this, is an extinct material, then that's a big no. So if at all we are using like bamboo and other which is rapidly renewable, that's a big yes. Then if the manufacturing processes in the factory, are they using a lot of water to manufacture this product? So then again, that's not sustainable. So the manufacturing process also becomes important. So for us to check each and every point is difficult, so we can go for certified. But otherwise, you can check for the local materials, the raw materials, and yeah, I think that the
Manufacturing.
manufacturing processes, and also that it has to be climate responsive. So you
Mhm.
cannot put some, bricks otherwise.
Because I guess to use each and every material, there is a skill set required to have it also.
Yeah, so there is something called life cycle analysis, that's called an LCA. So where they analyze the product like from the base to the end of life. So how it is extracted, how it is manufactured, how it is
Can we
transported.
take an example of a material? How can we see this entire life cycle?
So if you can take a brick, that's a
Okay.
basic material which we've been using for the building envelope.
Okay.
So bricks has a thermal insulation. It is a terracotta. It is done with mud, clay, and the manufacturing process is also. I mean, not we are not using a lot of energy or a material to use it, and most of it is available locally. So you can also do in situ bricks as well. So there is zero transportation there. So and once it is in the building, it performs well. And after 50, 60 years, when you demolish the building, it goes back to nature. No, it's not going to landfill. It can decompose or it can go back to the earth because it's done with mud and clay.
Yes.
So that is a good material. So, but nowadays people, everybody wants to use cement blocks. Okay, the worst case, you want to use cement blocks, please go for hollow cement blocks, where you have some screening in between and you have a better thermal insulation than the solid blocks.
Even if you're using certain materials, you can try to look out at an alternate rather than
Exactly.
the.
See, sometimes somewhere we cannot use the brick. Some clients don't want, or the it doesn't fit into the project, or you cannot. So when you are shifting to something else, see the sustainability there. So at every point you can have a checklist. What is the best I can do in this situation?
You can keep on looking at an alternate which
Yeah,
is more.
alternative where it fits in to the project and the stakeholders, whoever it is.
Mm.
And also we are sustainable to certain extent than being zero.
So, what architects are actually doing wrong when it comes to sustainable or a climate responsive design when they are supposed to be?
Any architect gets any project. So how do we start? We just take the requirements, we just take the site. I mean, probably you just take a site pictures or you probably visit a site, then you start designing. So before we start designing, it's very important that you prepare to design. Preparation is a very important aspect where you look at the site analysis. Site analysis is where we look at the flora and fauna, we look at the soil, we do the SPC of the soil to give our structural design or something. But we also have to look at the topography, the flora and fauna in the site, and how resilient our building will be for the future. Because if you are designing for a building in a flood area, you need to be, your building has to stand there, that's going to come. Our building has to be resilient. So are we looking at all this? No, we are just getting the requirements and we are starting off with the design. And how climate responsive our building could be is only when you study the climate. So there are a lot of applications today or softwares today where you put in your latitude and longitude onto the website, and they will give you a strategies of where to place the building, how it is, and they give you the sun path diagram, but you should know to read the sun path diagram, because the entire year's sun position with the timing and the date will be there. But you should know how to read it, and then you can give appropriate windows, so you are safeguarding your building from the heat or the sun. So all of this is not done, which is not very difficult to do, but we can do it. So we are missing that point. The preparation to design is missing. We just directly jump into action. I got the requirements, I got this, and I know how to do it. I can design a house with courtyards and light, and the client also likes it, and we are good to go. But they don't know what they're missing. So because we are talking about sustainability, you'd always have to think, and you keep talking about it, more people will get to know about
Do the certifications like Griha and LEED is actually means the building is sustainable, or is it just for the certification base?
it. No, no, definitely not. Whatever buildings which are being certified, it means it is far better than your conventional building, because there are so many aspects which are taken care of
Okay.
when you're looking certifications like LEED. So LEED is the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and IGBC, that's the Indian Green Building Council. They look at the aspects of how we can reduce the impact on the environment, how to reduce the carbon footprint. So there are certain number of points which is assigned. So how the points are assigned is where there is a lot of lack, like how more carbon footprint we are providing by that point. Like if you're using energy provides a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and how to cut down, so that more number of points are assigned to that. So if the project wants to have a platinum certification, gold, or the highest level is platinum, where they tackle at the highest number of activity, that's called credits. So when you complete one credit, you're going to get certain number of points.
Okay.
So the way it is designed is, when you follow this whole thing, you are definitely going to reduce the carbon footprint. But in the process, as our being lead consultants or green building consultants, we might score well sometimes, but we might be missing on the main points. So you'll always have to be aware that we are attaining points for our certification with the right number of credits, or the right credits, so our building is also sustainable. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, there's a topper in the college who scores really well. One person mugs up and he scores really well, but is he really intelligent? Can he survive in this world? Not really. So there is one more person who is truly intelligent, but he scores also well. Is that good? Yeah. So it is like that. So sometimes the lead points are more, but is it truly sustainable? Only the person who is into sustainability will know that. So as a consultant, we should also cross check whether all aspects of the green building design are in, and we are doing the right thing.
Do they come and check every now and then the construction which is
No, no,
happening
no,
from
no,
the
no.
start till the end,
No,
or
no.
a completed building they will see? How
No,
do
no.
they
It's
see?
there is something called initial design phase review, and there's a final review.
Okay.
There's a combined review also.
Okay.
But once you get the certification, it is done.
Okay. So we have to reach out to whom to get this kind of certification?
So if you're getting lead, you have to reach out to USGBC, that is US Green Building Council. Then if you're doing IGBC certification, there are certain tool platforms where we have to register our building.
Mm.
Then we'll get all the credits. Then we should know which credit we have to look for and how we can do it, and then the building gets certification.
If you have to redesign the Indian construction context, what are the three major things you want to eliminate completely from the Indian construction at this point of time?
Okay, there are a few things which I have to tell, but I don't know whether it's three of them. Uh, the first and the foremost thing, I would want all the people who are involved in a construction to be skilled and to have formal education, because so many times clients and architects take months together to design, and after that it has to be transformed into a building outside. That is our main goal, right? So the person who is actually constructing, does he have the skill to replicate your design? So that is where we are lacking. Anybody claims themselves to be a builders or a contractor. So many times they don't even know how to read the drawing, or they don't understand what we are saying on an architectural point of view, or they don't know the structural design. So I would request that if somebody has to claim themselves as a builder or a contractor who can construct, has to have certain degree or certain formal education. So we are doing, sense. We are not just, because you and me can sit here in the office and replicate 10 designs. Now you give it to AI, it will give you 50. So is it what we are replicating there? Because what you're designing should be replicated the same way there. Because if you are looking at a window to be 8 feet by 8 feet, a huge window, it has to be the same thing there, because there's a lot of thought process has gone behind that. Giving a large window or giving a French window, or somewhere you want to give a smaller window, why are you giving? There is a thought process for you. But when you go to the site, that person doesn't know anything. I mean, I'm not asking him to know everything, but he has to at least know that he has to follow, or not, try to educate the client saying that I have so many years experience and he's going to do a great job and all of that. So there should be a benchmark saying that he possesses the skill to be a contractor. So that's the first thing I mean to change. And the second thing is for all the architects, where we, the way we design, the approach, our design approach, the design thinking should be different. I wish that everybody, adapts sustainability, that from day one, all the architects who design buildings or any building which is constructed in the world, if it is done responsibly without, uh, I mean, looking at the waste generated or the energy used or the carbon footprint, then we are good to go. So those are the few things which I want to change.
You have already gone through our architecture playbook tool. So we have a place called as discovery page where contractors, carpenters also can showcase their work for credibility. Like they should have also some portfolio kind of thing. That's why we are making a digital portfolio for
I
them.
understand.
And second thing, we asked not just the 2D drawings, even the 3D models should be accessed by the contractors, because we know they're not formally educated. But if we give access to the technology to them, they will do better on site.
Yeah, that's a
So,
good
what
point.
is your take on it?
Yeah, architecture playbook is good. The concept is really nice. So it is very beneficial. I would definitely agree, because from 2D to 3D drawings, people can understand better, the clients or anybody can understand better. But the only thing is, it has to be very simple and the user interface has to be very easy.
How it is?
Like if I want to, you can also make it a little colorful, and some uh, demarcation of the visual composition of that.
Yes.
Silly.
So the UI UX has to be worked
Yes,
out.
exactly. So the very important factor of understanding is, you need to be empathetic. Means you need to understand what the other person is looking. Then only you will be able to give something to them. So empathy is a very important aspect which you need to adapt, even for your business, for work, for relationships, or whatever. That works like magic.
So true. How does the large projects which are getting constructed do talk about sustainability? But a small homeowner, can they also dream about sustainability? How is their take for it? How they can practice sustainability?
Definitely, anything can be made sustainable, but it is all contextual basis. So if you are looking at sustainability for a residence, definitely it could be done, but the sustainability has to be rooted from design. That is when very easily you can bring a big impact of sustainability into it. But if some building is already constructed, you can also make that system sustainable by changing some processes. So in LEED or USGBC, we have something called, a building can be certified under operation and maintenance. That is for the existing buildings. Do you know the Sears Tower in Chicago? That's where on the, you can go on top and have the 360-degree view of Chicago. So
Okay.
that building was already constructed, but they wanted a certification for it. So they went in for this operational and maintenance certification, where you change the existing HVAC systems or the building systems. You're not changing the building, you're changing the systems of the building. So it is still sustainable in only that aspect, but it is better than not having anything. So you can make sustainability to any building at any scale, but it depends on the context and the extent of it which you can do. So I also want to give an example. There is something called sustainable buildings, sustainable interiors, then operational maintenance, then sustainable homes, and we have sustainable neighborhood developments. So you have these prestige city or something which is coming up, right? So it means the neighborhood development where everything is within that. People don't need to come out. Everything is walkable. Everything is within the city. So you are really reducing the VMT. That is called the vehicle miles traveled. That you're really not traveling like 30 kilometers for your work every day. That is a big no in sustainability. That is called suburban sprawl, where we don't encourage that. So all that will be taken care of here. So a large building, a scale campus building can also be sustainable. A small home can also be sustainable. So we're talking about sustainable interiors. I would just want to give an example for the studio we are sitting in now.
Okay.
So it is also sustainable to a certain extent because this was already existing. So this space was initially designed as a garage.
Okay.
So we have used the uh, technique of adaptive reuse. What is adaptive reuse? Is if a space is already designed for something else and you change the functionality of that space and make it something different, is adaptive reuse. So
Okay.
we have followed that. And the furniture, so all the chairs we are actually sitting in now and we have.
Okay.
So these are all the chairs from my father's office where I have got it refurbished. So we are following the sustainable aspect here. And even our seating, the sofa which is 50 years old from my
Okay.
ancestral place, and I got that upholstered and I've used. So most of the things, and even the side tables, we've put a nice Duco paint for it, and we have been sustainable.
It looked absolutely new.
Yeah, it looks absolutely new. So we repurposed those sustainable furnitures. So the office is less than 150 square feet. So we also made it sustainable. So we can make anything sustainable.
That's really amazing. A live example with us.
Yes,
It
yes.
is really commendable.
The flooring which we have used is also Welspun flooring, which is also used with recycled resin and plastic. So we've used that as our flooring material,
Okay.
which was, they don't use any adhesive. It was a very tongue and groove kind of a joint. They came and did it in 2 hours. So this can be also recycled or replaced. Basically, if I'm having this, want to have this same flooring somewhere else, I can just remove it and go and put it there because there's no adhesive involved in
So
this.
it can be dismantled.
It
and
can be
used.
dismantled and it can used somewhere, and is also used with a recycled material. And we have these plant pots which is designed by one of my friend.
Okay.
So this is also an IGBC certified material.
Okay.
So that's also made with recycled plastic and resin.
Okay. How do you think the climate change will fundamentally change the way architects design in the next 10 to 20 years down the line?
Definitely, there will be a change in the way we design because as we are living in Bangalore right now, so we are expecting a shortage of water in another few years from now. So if we start preparing from today, we probably have a better cushion uh, time where we can, figure out something. But if we don't act today, and when we think that only when there is shortage of water, let's think about it. So it won't work that way. So we need to start thinking from today, what is the future and how we can adapt it. So not to act when the problem is there. So for this, there are so many startup companies or innovation happening there. So I was actually a part of Open Water. There are small startups which the Indian Institute of Science is funding them. So one of the professors was designing a recycling small unit, water recycling small unit, where the kitchen water which is coming, which can be recycled and reused in the house, very small one, which can be done in the household. So we started with grey water, that is the water coming from the kitchen. But with their technology and the kind of uh, technology they used in that to clean the water or disposition of the water, they could clean the black water as well. So when you put the water in that, the gray water or the black water, it cleans out and it comes out, and you can store certain amount of water in that, and you can reuse it. So we wanted to put it in certain projects, but like I said, the client is thinking, now I'm getting water in my house, why should I do it? So, but she also went ahead and got the patent done. So we are ready now. If something is going to happen, we already have the, unit where, you can say that it on a smaller household, it can be used. Even when there is no water, even 120 liters of one bucket of water is precious, right? So there is something like that. And I also would want to tell all the young architects to get educated on this, because in the green building industry there is a lot of scope for innovation in terms of materials or technologies. So we know what is the problem we need to tackle. So if you come up with new products with which can do the functionality of what we are looking for on a sustainable basis, then it has a lot of value, because sustainability is the future. So a lot of innovation is still has to be done in terms of technology or materials. But we are going good now in India. We have so many lakhs of square feet which are IGBC certified, and there are a lot of summits which happen. So when you go there, there is uh, all the vendors who show their technologies or the genuine products of materials. So I have a lot of my friends who are also into manufacturing sustainable materials. So this, why the Delhi is polluted so much, right? So because of the burning of the husk of around area. So she has come up with a product where she's using that husk compressed and done a lot of testing on in the lab and everything. So now she's got it patented, and where it can be used in the exteriors and the interiors and everywhere. So here what is happening is we are saving the material which was going to landfill or creating such a big problem, and also you are replacing a material which could be cut down or manufactured and come in that place. You're saving on the virgin materials, and you're using the waste material for this. So there are so many things there in the future, but at the base of it, please get educated, please understand how everything works, then we are good to go.
Right, because I have seen most of the now young innovative architects, they've started taking an initiative. One of the product was called as Dumpcrete, where all the products, waste product out of a renovation or construction
Hmm.
site can be compacted into small bricks and reused on another site for construction. Ma'am, what do you think about the technology, AI, BIM, and smart solutions which are coming? Are they actually allowing us to have more sustainable construction, or are we over dependent on them to make any decisions on site also? What is your take on it?
So I would want to say that it always depends on the user. So for example, if you have a knife, you can use the knife to cut vegetables or fruits, or you can also use it to stab somebody. Okay. So it is about the user. So AI is there, but how do you use it? So there are so many clients who think AI is there, I can build the house myself. I can give to Chat GPT all my requirements, and then it will give you. It'll give you some 10 plans. How do you know which plan is good? Do you have the knowledge to decide which plan is good, because you are investing crores of money, your hard earned money into it? You don't know. You have to go to an expert. So we had a lot of discussion on this. So AI is there, but how you use the AI is with you. So instead of the clients using AI, you use the AI to enhance your design. AI will not do the design for you. Don't depend on the AI to do the design. Use it to enhance your design. Probably there are so many things which you also don't know,
Hmm.
which exist in that world. It's not that we just have to go with our traditional way outlook. I always believe in the time where now today we have AI. So how you can make use of AI, keeping your core values and principles as an architect, and enhance your design. So not to forget, the core values at all, because AI is there. AI after some time might go, but you will still remain. So so it is very important to enhance your design with AI and BIM, and there are so many other tools which definitely help us on sustainable front, because we when we design a building for its performance, so we want to perform the building in a better way, about how we have designed, like for the climate responsive or the performance of the design. So there are certain tools like Rhino and BIM and other things where it before only it shows you the heat, solar heat gain, or the light factor. So do we really need the light? So all of those information is given with these platforms, so we definitely can use them, but to what extent you should use them is your call.
What mindset should an architect or an architectural student should develop to genuinely contribute to the sustainable construction in the industry?
So like we said, that sustainability starts from site or from your design thinking basically. So we need to have a paradigm shift of the way we think or the way we design buildings. So when the building is given to you, yes, you need to complete all your client's requirements and keep the functionality aspect in mind, keep the aesthetic aspect in mind, and also sustainability aspect in mind. So it is very important that you develop the skill or the approach to have this. So that has to be done through colleges. So when the colleges introduce certain subjects, how you can apply. See, many of them know what to do. Okay. Even you know, even I know sustainability is important, we know. But how many people are intending on doing it? How many people want to try it? Because in the construction industry, we don't want to try new things. Most of them, they don't want to risk it, because it is so much of finances and money and material and time and everything. They don't want to try new things. So only over a period of time, when it is time, and there are few clients who do want to try. So with them you can experiment or do whatever and understand what it is. So there is a lot of pros and cons which you have to analyze before putting that technology or the material in that. So analysis is a very important factor, but colleges play a very important role in educating them and the application of it. If you just have the knowledge, there's no use. You need to put it out in the building to see how it works or whatever. So there is a lot of analysis which has to be done. There's a lot of patience which is required, which is kind of lacking right now, because everyone's want like instant, like Instamart delivery or big basket. Everything should be quick and fast. So probably in such cases, some tools like architecture playbook also might play a important role, because you don't have time for analysis, so you can use the technology for the analysis.
I also want to understand your take on when you were starting a construction from the design phase where you were proposing the sustainable alternates to the clients, and by the time it is coming on site it was something else. So is there, can you give an experience of yours when it has happened and why it happened?
So basically, see, well, like I said, you most of the people, they don't want to try new things
Mm,
because it is risky.
mm,
They all always want to go for tried and tested materials.
mm.
So we started a design with bricks,
Okay.
and because brick is a very thermally insulated material, it's a sustainable one, and it check boxes all the points. But somewhere along the way, he spoke to a lot of contractors and a lot of people, and everybody was like, no, no, we can go for the cement blocks. So at the end, I could convince him to go for hollow cement blocks than the solid ones, because it is at least better than something. So that is what happens in terms of materials. But in terms of design, I am very particular about it. Whatever we have designed has to come there, whatever is the case.
Okay.
So I have really demolished so many walls which is not there in the design,
Okay. Why it has happened?
because the client, the maestri or the contractor thinks he knows everything, so he's not following the design.
Okay. So like their own takes or their own experience comes on top
They
of.
they kind of try to brainwash the client. So I actually prepare the client for this situation and then see, we have spent so much time on this. You know why we are putting it here. There is a vision of an architect in this. If you change it in the site, it will have a ripple effect on your design. If you change something, it will have a ripple effect. You're not changing everything else, right? You're changing only that.
Do you think so? Digitally documenting whatever the architect is intending to bring on site would add value to the client as well as the architect and the team?
Yeah, definitely it would add value to the site. I mean, value to the project, because the way you're documenting it, the way you're understanding it.
So anywhere, if they are deviating from the actual intent, what you told,
Exactly.
you can always come back to them and tell what
Definitely,
can be done
definitely,
better.
definitely. Documenting is a very important factor, because you might face problems as an architect if you're not documenting.
Yes.
I take screenshots of every confirmation I get from the
Right.
client,
That's
because it'll
great.
become a blame game otherwise.
Yes. What is your take on the waste management which happens on site during any construction? How that can be managed, as well as what is the end route for those waste? As an architect, what is our take for it?
So, waste management is a very important factor, because if we are not very careful about the waste is being generated, it can all end up in landfill, and it can remain there for years and centuries together, and it causes a lot of methane and other gases which are very harmful. So, construction waste is when we are designing a building. So, it is important for a person who is executing the building, the project management team, to get the right material. So, you need to precisely calculate how much you need. So, you are not buying excess and you're creating a waste. So, first thing is, the mother of all strategies for the waste management is cutting down at the source. So cut down the source where you're not at all creating a waste material. So we are talking about dealing with a lesser problem. So if a person, I'll just give you an example. If a person who is weighing 100 kgs, he has to become 50 kgs, how much hard work he has to do? If a person is already weighing 70 kgs and he has to come to 50 kgs, imagine how much he has to do. So why are we creating a bigger problem and then dealing with it? So cutting down at the source is a very important aspect. It, I can call it the mother of all strategies. It not only applies to waste, even to energy. So we have to design buildings which can run with very minimum energy, that is energy efficiency, with all your other factors, strategies, materials and everything. So the building requires only less. So the rest of it which it requires, if you are tackling it with a renewable source of energy, then we are good to go. We are not releasing a lot of carbon footprint in the building. So this strategy of reducing at the source can be applied for energy and waste also. So there are so many new technologies which are come up, where you can use precast materials, where precisely everything is calculated, that much amount of concrete is poured and it is got to the site. So there is absolutely no waste which is created with that. And recently in some of the webinar, one of the events we saw, where the entire floor is casted and they have lifted and they've put it there. So there is no waste at all. And the other new technology, which is the 3D printing. So we had been to the 3D printing house in IIT Madras, Chennai. So the whole the guest house of the VC is done by 3D printing.
Okay.
So the 3D printer, we are pouring the concrete and it is just using how much it wants. Everything is pre-calculated, so there's absolutely no waste. So we can adopt technology and precise planning, but at a normal lower level, you can have a precise planning. Don't create the waste at all. Okay, for some reason there is some waste which is generated. Segregation at the site is very important, where all the steel which is wasted should be put in one place. So there are certain boxes which you create in the construction site, where you put the steel, cement or whatever, and you tie up with a hauler, the waste hauler, where he comes and picks up everything, and it is not sent to the landfill. So when you're talking about waste management, it is how you handle the waste without sending it to the landfill. So that is very important. Even during the operational phase of the building, you can have, if you're looking at a corporate building which produces a lot of waste, so you can have one place assigned, very nicely planned from the beginning, where a waste hauler can come, pick up and just go. So there will be a place for segregation. Everything has to be segregated and taken by a specific one. So there is no waste which is generated. So for everything there is planning.
Right.
So that has to be done. So you can actually manage waste very well.
That's a very good point to start ahead from the beginning as an
You
architect.
can start at home. You
Yes.
can start everything at home. Everything begins at a smaller, lower level.
Yes.
So uh, where how you segregate, now our government has given the west waste and the dry waste, so you can also segregate your cardboards and everything and call the waste hauler and give it. So basically waste which is produced should not be sent to the landfill,
Right.
that it could be recycled and done, and cutting down at the source. So recently I came across one person who is doing park benches with these lace packets or these kurkure packets or
Chips.
the chips packets basically. That's a good thing that he's collecting everything and he's doing the benches. That's absolutely good because he's not sending it to the landfill. He's doing something good. But my point is, why are we even producing that when it is not good? Why is the government not taking any action? Why are we creating a problem and feeling good about solving it?
Oh, your take is like that. Okay, then which means how are we going to eat the chips then?
Come up with innovation, come up with a product where, what is the purpose of having the chips not
Like a
crushed?
chips dispenser.
Yeah, you come up with a product so where you can, that's where innovation is required.
Mm.
That you come up with a product that we don't even create that problem of recycling it, cutting at cutting down at the source, then we are good to go, right?
Yeah, like in old Karnataka shops, I have seen that they will have one glass jar all filled with biscuits. And if you want two biscuits, you eat only two biscuits and then you
That's
have it
it.
with your tea, and that's it.
So there are some different programs as well. Extended product responsibility, where the person who is doing the product will take all the waste products which is remaining after the use of the product, and he'll give you some rebate.
Hmm.
Like Decathlon, recently it launched that you get your old cycles, we're going to give some 10% rebate on your thing, and then, so that time the cycles are going there, you're getting the benefit of 10% discount, and the cycle is not going to go for a waste.
Yes.
So that is called an extended product responsibility. So there are so many strategies where we can cut down on the waste which is going to the
Like
landfill.
for newspaper, our parents generally like collect those newspaper till the end of the month so that we can give back those
I
newspapers so
still
that
do
we
it.
can get money out of it. So any waste would not just go as waste if you are having a value for it, is what Indian mentality
Exactly.
is.
Even I still do it.
Yeah.
You know how you can also manage water? Like we are all rice eaters in South India, right? So you wash the rice 3 to 4 times before you cook.
Hmm.
So when you drain the water the 3 to 4 times, what are you doing? You're just putting it down. I collect that water, put it to the plants.
Yes.
My plants are growing really well.
Yes.
Those are all the basic old stuff we need to do. When you don't have water, you will do it. But now we have given access to the world or our children that they don't know the value of it.
Yes.
So I keep doing it. So, and I'm a Shiva Bhakta. This is one of the painting I got it done from my friend. That also has a lot of concept and everything for that. So every Monday I got the water from when I went to Varanasi. I got the Ganga water. So every Monday I do Rudrabhishekam for that. So the water, whatever is remaining, there is one that Brahma Kamalam Yuta.
Yes.
I have that plant, so I keep putting it to that. And last week I got 14 flowers.
Wow.
14 Brahmakamalam flowers on one night.
That's amazing.
I live in an apartment, so I have pots and kept it filled. Okay, my balcony is filled with plants. But you can do whatever is given to you, smaller thing, you can do anything with it.
As a young architect, I am getting a lot of interior projects as well as the apartment projects specifically where I have to do the interiors for them. What are the practices which I can immediately start following when I am doing these interiors in terms of sustainability or eco-friendly interiors?
Interiors. So when we're talking about sustainable interiors, So most of it goes on the detailing on the furniture or the products what we are using, the interior products. So you can do interiors sustainable with your material, because we don't have the aspect of giving windows and all of that. So the most of it can be tackled through the materials. So the very fact of using wood or plywood is what we use for all our furniture, right? The kitchen cabinets or the wardrobes or wherever you're using. So the plywood or the basic inside material which you're using, it has to be FSC certified. That is Forest Stewardship Council. So most of the wood products have the certification. The normal ones, the Century and all of those also have it. So you have to be specifically choosing that kind of a plywood. So if the client is a little more educated or anything, so in one of the projects we used Hunts ply, that is timber plantation.
Yes.
That is not that we are cutting down the real trees, because those trees are grown only to be cut and done all of this. So that's called timber plantation. So where it is good for termites, because they have a lot of termites in their area. So we used Hunsply. So it depends on the client and the kind of project. But for all the plywoods, you can go for FSC certified. And for all the paints, you have to go for the one which is certified to reduce the ammonia, because we are also looking at the wellness of the people who are living in it. And even the upholsteries. So you need to have breathable upholsteries. So if you're going in for art leather, that's artificial leather, is a big no, because you don't breathe when you sit on the sofa. And you also go for these seatings or the sofas with ergonomics in mind, where people who are sitting in for long hours can sit comfortably with the spine in the correct position, because wellness is also important. And wherever you buy any materials, so please be sure of, uh, though it is not certified, but whether the fabric is good, like whether you're using some other than cotton or some fabric which you're putting. So be very carefully selecting your fabric or the materials. So most of the fabrics which I did, for interiors, I buy from D Decor, because they're also, their company invests something into sustainability for their CSR activity. Somewhere down the line, we are also being a part of it.
Yes.
So we can look for companies who are doing some corporate CSRs or something where they're contributing back to the climate. So those are the few things which you can consider. But analysis of the material is very important.
Yes, ma'am. So let's head to the rapid fire question. One sustainable practice that every Indian architect should adopt immediately now.
Cutting at the source, that is source reduction.
Okay. What is the green building? Is it a necessity or is it a luxury?
It is a necessity, but nowadays necessity is becoming luxury.
Which is more sustainable in India today? Is it a traditional material or is it a high tech material?
Traditional material.
If you could ban one construction practice in India tomorrow, what it would be?
Getting materials from long, far away places.
One word, what will define future in Indian architecture? Sustainability, affordability, or resilience? Why?
So I would go for resilience, because so when you have water scarcity, you need to design for the water scarcity aspect, which is going to come. Or if you're looking at global warming, we need to look at reducing the temperatures and reducing the usage of for heating and cooling. I mean, there's no heating in India, the cooling devices. So resilience is the future.
One Indian city that is doing great in terms of sustainability.
I think in Maharashtra is really leading with a lot of certified green building projects, green building certified projects. So we would be very happy if we Karnataka also is heading in that way.
Concrete, steel, or mud? Which material has the most misunderstood sustainability story?
Definitely, mud is a very sustainable one, because it goes back to nature. But the thing is, when you are doing bricks with mud or you're doing rammed earth, so the skill required for that is a little expensive. So people are little reluctant. But off late, due to the aesthetics of the rammed earth, people are looking at it. So we can add that as a feature, and it is also sustainable. Regardless, you need to do the others. You just can't put rammed earth and say sustainable.
Solar panel in every building. Is it a yes or a no for you?
Yeah, definitely we should go for renewable sources of energy, and solar is a free energy which has been given to us, so we need to encash that, so to reduce the energy loads on our buildings.
So, as an architect, what do you call yourself as?
So I would call myself as a green architect because that's the word which most people understand. Even the layman can understand what is green and how it could be related to sustainability. So I would call myself as a green architect who's a green ambassador for our future.
Thank you so much for today's conversation. It was really insightful to understand how sustainability is. As a young architect, I am also learning a lot from you today's conversation. And this small checklist and small things which you taught in this entire podcast was so something to take away from. I really appreciate the time you have given to us. And thank you so much for being part of our podcast, ma'am.
So, as being the founder of Studio Green Adobe, and we advocate sustainability and green practices. So, we have a vision. Every building which is built on this earth should be very responsibly built with sustainability as the core principle, not only reducing the impact but giving back to nature. That is our vision. So, the mission is to educate or bring awareness of sustainable practices or green building strategies to more and more people in the industry. So for that we also have a lot of educational programs which we give from our company. So we have lead training programs, that is where you can take up the 6-week course and become a green building consultant, or we are also coming up with a masterclass series where we go dive deep into one subject uh, about sun or biomimicry, or so that you have a understanding of it and you can immediately apply it in your design. So that is our approach. Thank you.